Hi everyone, welcome. Agenda item 1 is just welcome and apologies. We do have some apologies, I believe. Would you just like to?
Yes, so Councillor Sir Steve Horton's given his apologies, with Councillor Frost attending in reserve. Mayor Ross Jones giving her apologies, with Councillor Glyn Jones attending in reserve, and Martin Swells has given his apologies as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item number 2. So just some announcements and comments from me, if you don't mind, if you'll indulge me. So since we met last month, I just wanted to offer some updates on a few things. Firstly, as board members, you'll know that I obviously notified you last week about a concern that we had with the former Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner accounts that I inherited when I took on the Police and Crime Commission responsibilities in May of this year. So due diligence by the Simca finance team, led by Gareth, found that 5 years ago £65 million was borrowed to pay for essential assets for South Yorkshire Police, and that includes things like vehicles and kit and IT equipment, and unfortunately £16 million of charges that should have been made to allow for the repayment of that debt have so far not been paid back, and future payments of £49 million have not been included in those spending plans going forward. So as you could imagine, and as I know you share with me, a sense of deep disappointment and frustration about that situation, but I'm doing two things. We're working at pace with external auditors, South Yorkshire Police and the government to identify a sustainable solution, and I've also instructed my office to bring in an external team to independently look at the process that allowed those mistakes to happen, to go undetected for 5 years and make sure that there is not a systemic challenge or problem there, to give us all reassurance, and most importantly give the communities of South Yorkshire reassurance that there is not a wider problem at play. So that's happening right now. I will obviously continue to keep you informed, the communities of South Yorkshire informed, and work with the police and the government and everybody else to find a solution going forward. In terms of what's happening more broadly across the country, we've got Council of Nations and Regions meeting this Friday. That's the first of the Prime Minister's Council of Nations and Regions. The establishment of that council was a manifesto commitment and confirmed in the King's speech to bring together all the English mayors and First Ministers from across the United Kingdom in the devolved nations. And so obviously I'm delighted that the Prime Minister is bringing us all together and chairing the first meeting, aiming to strengthen central government's relationship with mayors and those devolved administrations, and deliver on their promises around devolution, which have been central to their ambitions, as I think we all know. I've said this a number of times, but in the first 100 days of this government alone, I've had more engagement, support, and conversations with them than I did under the last 2 years of the previous government, which is a good thing. We have a lot of work to do together to make sure that we're delivering for our communities, but I know they're committed to devolution and making sure that mayors are central to some of that, as well as obviously our communities more broadly. In terms of other things that have been happening, our Mayoral Economic Advisory Council came to Rotherham last month, where Councillor Chris Reid and officers from Rotherham Council were able to take us on a tour of the transformative Forge Island regeneration project, which was brilliant. Thank you very much for having us. I know they all enjoyed it as well. The progress being made by that council together with partners was a good example, I think, of the work taking place across our communities, across the MCA and in places like Rotherham, to build a bigger and better economy. I know that those members of the MEAC, including sort of world-leading thinkers like Andy Haldane, people like Kate Barker, who were joining us on that tour, were deeply impressed by the work that they saw. We also brought that MEAC group together with our Business Advisory Board during the visit, before a full day of meetings with the AMRC's outstanding 2050 team. We're really lucky, I think, to have a group of people like that helping us and working with us to build that bigger and better economy in South Yorkshire. And then just last but not least from me, I've also been at Labour Party conference along with, I know, other colleagues. It was in Liverpool, and an important opportunity for me and colleagues from Simca to engage with government ministers, secretaries of state, wider stakeholders, bang the drum for South Yorkshire. I was grateful to the Aviation Minister, Mike Kane, for meeting me to discuss progress on reopening Doncaster Sheffield Airport. I know he met colleagues from Doncaster specifically as well. Also pleased to sit down with the Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, to tell him more about the booming clean tech sector, the work we're doing with companies like Holtec, who have committed, should they be successful through the GBN competition, have committed to developing their SMR manufacturing facility here in South Yorkshire, and that is over £1 billion worth of investment coming into the region. It's clear, as I said before, that mayors and combined authorities are going to play a key role in the government's plans and programmes going forward, and that was demonstrated at Labour Party conference through the meetings that I had with people like Johnny and Mike and Louise Haig and others, and many other people besides. So that's what we've been up to. I also just want to try and bring in Councillor Glyn Jones, if I could please, who's going to provide a bit of an update on what's happening with Doncaster Sheffield Airport. Thank you, Glyn.
Yes, thanks, Oliver. With regards to Doncaster Sheffield Airport, the City of Doncaster Council continues to progress the due diligence in relation to procurement process to appoint an operator. We are also progressing updating the outline business case so that the full business case can be brought soonest to the available MCA board meeting following the satisfactory conclusion of the assurance process. Regular discussions are taking place between the teams and external advisors to arrive at a decision point as soon as possible. Thank you for that indulgence, Chair.
Thank you. Does anybody want to chip in on that? Are you okay? I know we're having private conversations as well. No? Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Glenn. So we move on to agenda item number 3, which are urgent items. I believe there are no urgent items for consideration. Thank you. Items to be considered in the absence of public and press. There are no exempt items on the agenda. Appendices B, C and D of item 10 have been identified by officers as exempt for the reasons set out on the report. However, the substantive item remains open, which means we can consider it in public unless members wish specifically to discuss exempt information. So if that is the case, could you please notify me at that point in the meeting? So I'm aware. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Agenda item number 5, declarations of interest by individual members in relation to any item of business on the agenda other than the standing agenda items in this part of the meeting. Any other declarations of interest that I need to be aware of? No? Okay, brilliant, thank you. Agenda item number 6, reports from and questions by members. None have been received in advance of the meeting. Agenda item number 7, receipt of petitions. We have received a petition from Amelia Crowther, who I believe is in attendance. No? Okay, brilliant, thank you. Today to present that petition. Would you like to join us at the table and you can present the petition?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's put my proper reading glasses on. Pre-prepared speech. Dear Sir, Madam, I am here today to present a petition of over 800 signatures. It's actually slightly less than that because I couldn't manage to bring all of the signatures together. Another party that was gathering them, they're sort of in the library in Gleedless at the moment, which doesn't open until 12:30. Petition of over 800 signatures to the Mayor, in which we ask that the number 11 bus service be reinstated immediately. This bus route, which was previously the number 47, has served people in the Herdings, Gleedless and Hayley communities for over 30 years. The negative effects of the withdrawal of this vital transport link cannot be underestimated. Anecdotally, we have heard from desperate workers who cannot get to their employment, care workers who cannot get to their service users, parents who cannot get their children to school, students who cannot get to college, elderly and disabled people who are unable to access shops and vital services, and residents who cannot get to club groups or their place of worship. The arbitrary cancellation of this bus service happened effectively overnight, with no notice given and no discernible consultation with community groups or stakeholders. This bus route does not only runs through an area which is high on the deprivation index, but also an area which is currently under a local regeneration plan. How is withdrawing a bus service that is a lifeline to so many people reasonable and proportionate? In addition, its withdrawal is in flagrant breach of equality regulations, as a high proportion of passengers are vulnerable, elderly and or disabled. There should be a clear duty of care to residents in Sheffield to provide a regular and reliable service in order that they can go about their everyday lives. Therefore, we ask that any remedial action is taken to restore this basic entitlement. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Greg Hume.
Greg, thank you for coming and thank you to Amelia for coordinating the petition.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Really appreciate that. I know Gleedless, Healy really well. Used to live in Norton, used to rely on the 33 and 34 bus every day. Understand entirely how cut off that can feel as a community when bus services are not there. We've invested in Gleedless through the Beds for Babies scheme, put in a community hub there, working with IKEA and partners. I think it's a brilliant community. I was always very happy to live around that neck of the woods. I'd love to be able to say to you, we can just sort the buses out. I really, really would. I really would, I promise you. I would like to thank the people that have taken the time, not just you and your wife, but also everybody that signed the petition and made their feelings clear. Sadly, the system that we have in not just South Yorkshire, but the vast majority of the UK, I've said time and time and time again, I think is broken. Like I've said that repeatedly. I remember growing up, I don't know if you're from Sheffield originally, but growing up with 2p bus fares and world-class bus services and everything else. And, you know, for me, that was a brilliant time to grow up in South Yorkshire because you had that opportunity to get where you need to be when you need to be there. I've made my views clear on a number of occasions about why this happens and what the consequences are and the negative effects of that, and largely decisions about our bus network are taken by private sector companies who take those decisions not unreasonably, because they are private sector companies, in the interests of kind of what works in terms of profit and loss, and I understand why that is. But from my perspective, that does create difficulties and challenges like you've just identified there. If you'd like to invite me to come and talk to the community at a public meeting, I'd be happy to have that conversation at more length. I'm really happy to do that, come to speak to some of the people that signed the petition, potentially just you and your wife, whatever you'd like me to do. But I'm really happy to spend the time doing that, because clearly you've put a lot of time into this petition, so I'm really happy to come and talk to you about kind of why we're in this position, what's happening with bus services in South Yorkshire, and what we're trying to do to try and fix it, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Okay, on to item number 8, please, which is public questions. I don't believe we have received any public questions. So move on to item number 9. Minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of September 2024. Are members content that the minutes are an accurate record of the meeting? Any corrections? No? Brilliant, thank you. Item number 10 then. We move on to the substantive item on the agenda, which is bus franchising. The paper sets out the conclusions of the independent review and explains that if the MCA wishes to proceed further, the next stage of the process must be to undertake a consultation in accordance with the section 123E of the Transport Act 2000. So that is the formal thing that I have to say, but it's also worth me just saying how pleased I am to be having this conversation in this forum, to be able to move forward with this conversation. We've worked at pace to get to this point in South Yorkshire. I think we're moving quicker than anybody else in the country to get through this process, which is mandated clearly by government. The previous government, governments before that, set those rules in place, and we're working within those rules to now move forward with bus reform and through those legal stages. This is a really important conversation for the reasons that I think we just heard from Greg and the 800 people in Gleedless who've signed a petition. They are just one small section of the people in South Yorkshire who struggle with bus services every single day. I receive those letters, I know you receive those letters, and the conversation today is what can we do about that? What is the best way forward for South Yorkshire to try and solve some of those problems on behalf of our communities, because it is holding back people's access to opportunity, jobs, growth, and schooling, health, you name it. And so kind of it's important that we solve those problems, and the conversation today is about what is the best way forward in order to do just that. So over to colleagues really to kind of take any conversations after we've heard from Melanie, but this is a really important day for South Yorkshire in my view. Melanie, would you like to present the paper?
Yeah, thank you. Mayor, I'll just walk us through the regulatory process and how we've reached this point, and then Melanie will pick up on the substantive items. So just a reminder that the members will recall the path to a bus franchising scheme is heavily regulated. It requires us to undertake an assessment, and that assessment is prescribed under law. And that assessment is then independently audited. So the MCA committed to undertake the assessment in March 2022, and then it received the findings of that assessment in March 2024. The assessment concluded that a move to a franchise scheme was the most efficient way of operating bus services within South Yorkshire. Having received that assessment, the board then agreed to submit the assessment to independent audit, and PricewaterhouseCoopers were appointed to undertake that audit. At the same time, the members commissioned a separate report into financial risk management, and we appointed BDO to help prepare a financial risk framework. So I'm really pleased to inform the board that PwC have reached a conclusion now that the information that we used to conduct the assessment was appropriate. that the analysis that we undertook through that assessment was sound, and that the MCA had due regard to the guidance. So in non-material aspects, we have now discharged the obligations under law to undertake that assessment. I'm also really pleased to inform the board that the financial risk framework has now been shared with all members across the region and has been found to satisfy the requirements for the management of the increased financial risk that we will accept if we step forward with bus franchising. So again, I believe we've satisfied the requirements of this board to consider that issue before we proceed. So I'll pass over now to Melanie. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. So if we decide to proceed along the bus reform route, the next stage in that process is to undertake a statutory consultation. And there are a number of stakeholders that we would need to formally consult with. That includes local bus operators, representatives of employees of operators, organisations that represent passengers, local authorities that would be affected by the scheme, the Traffic Commissioner, Chief Officers of Police, Transport Focus and the Competition and Markets Authority. So we have to consult with them, and there will be a period of a minimum 12 weeks to do that. We would also wish to consult with the general public, and in particular with bus users, non-bus users and other key stakeholders that we identify as well, and hear what people think about how we should run our buses. So there'll be a consultation document. We will undertake various meetings and briefings for interested groups. We'll have some public information events, public focus groups, and then there will be a media and promotional campaign just to raise awareness, to let people know that when the consultation has started. So the plan is that we would launch on the 23rd of October and run until the 15th of January, which is covering that minimum 12-week period. There'll then be an independent report on the consultations that we've received, and then we will respond to that report with a report that comes back to this board in March. So that is the process as set out in the guidance and the Transport Act.
Brilliant, thank you. Can I take comments and questions from members, please?
Thank you very much. I think we've all had many conversations around this table before about the importance of good quality public transport for the people across our region. Good public transport is a matter of social justice. It's about enabling people to access opportunities for new employment opportunities, education, but also to enjoy themselves and look after loved ones. So there are too many parts of our city and of our region which currently don't have the good connectivity that we want, and we have to take a step to reverse the decline that we've seen in the network over recent years. And as the assessment laid out very clearly, franchising is the best way forward, and I wholeheartedly welcome the report coming forward and the audit, and look forward to getting the public's views over the next few months. And I'm sure that, like as we've heard from the petitioners from Gleedless, there will be a lot of interest in this because people will recognise that the current system is not operating in the way that it should, and we have an opportunity to change it. And I think it's incumbent on us as leaders in our areas to take that opportunity.
Thank you, Tom. Chris, would you like to
Thank you, Oliver. So I agree entirely with what Thomas said. I think we've known for a long time now that a competitive bus market doesn't work in terms, and has failed communities across South Yorkshire. Sadly, over the course of a number of decades now, we've heard more about that today. So really pleased that we're able to bring this forward and move towards a more coordinated, more efficient system of organising our buses in South Yorkshire. I think that's really important. It's probably worth saying that in the end, the number of buses running is dependent on the resources that are going in. Now, franchising, I believe, gives us some options in order to generate more revenue, in order to use that money more efficiently across the network. I was pleased to see Clive Betts the other day lobbying the government on funding for buses in general, because in the end, it does cost money to pay bus drivers and to keep buses on the road. So we are stepping forward as the local authorities and as the Mayoral Combined Authority in moving this forward. But we need all the support that we can get from across the system in order to make that the success that it can be. So it isn't a silver bullet, but it is, in my view, a big step in the right direction.
Thank you, Chris. Other comments?
Thank you, Oliver. Yeah, certainly welcome this as a way forward. We need to have better connectivity, better reliability, and a more coordinated transport system for South Yorkshire. And this offers a way forward, away from the fragmented system we've currently got. So thank you, Oliver.
Thank you.
Yeah, also fully support this. And the current system, we just get loads of buses where it's profitable, and if you don't live on those routes, you're unlucky. We do, you know, the connectivity is poor. So yeah, fully support this going through.
Brilliant, thank you. I mean, I think it is worth picking up on Chris's point. South Yorkshire's buses have been in a state of decline largely as a result of funding as well, actually. And South Yorkshire, for instance, from under the last government, received £30 less per head than West Yorkshire when it came to bus service improvement plan funding. People will remember that we asked the last government for £564 million worth of bus service improvement plan funding and received absolutely nothing, £0 and 0 pence, which I know have put the bus companies themselves in difficult times. This is not something that, you know, we've suffered alone. The bus companies have therefore found that difficult too, but most importantly, our communities are the ones that have suffered. So we need to do something in order to fix buses in South Yorkshire. It's quite clear, and so this is, as you say, an important step, and I think a welcome step. And we now need to engage in that conversation with our communities about what people want to see from that bus network, what they want to see when it comes to bus reform, and where they believe the solutions lie. So we will have that conversation fully with them if people are supportive. So really grateful for the comments, but also for the work that's gone in at pace, because this is absolutely at pace in order to get to where we are, because we know this is urgent for all too many people across South Yorkshire. This is an urgent need. And so it is absolutely right that we work at pace and we take those decisions as quickly as we can, and work to fix things in the way that we think we are. The Secretary of State has a good phrase, doesn't she, which is move fast and fix things, and I think that's what we're in the business of here in South Yorkshire as well. So good to take this step today. So if I can ask, please, the board consider the independent review letter setting out the conclusions from the independent review of the bus reform assessment undertaken by PwC, which is Appendix A. The independent review report prepared by PwC, which is Exempt Appendix B, the updated bus reform assessment, which is Exempt Appendix C, and it is recommended that the board approves progression of the proposed bus franchising scheme to consultation in accordance with the provisions of Section 123E, 123G of the Transport Act 2000, sections we all know very well. 2.2, giving notice of the proposed bus franchising scheme and to publish and make copies available for inspection of the proposed franchising scheme, consultation document, bus reform assessment and independent review report in accordance with sections 123E brackets 2 brackets D and 123E brackets 3 of the Transport Act 2000, and then the delegation of all the tasks required to finalise the consultation document and other required material ready for publication at consultation launch to the head of paid service, section 73 officer and monitoring officer. Are we all agreed? Wonderful. So over to you, communities of South Yorkshire. Thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate that. Okay, on to agenda item number 11, please, which is programme approvals. Report from Gareth.
Thank you, Mayor. This month we have 3 approvals, 1 change request and 1 grant acceptance. I'm really pleased to recommend Sheffield City Centre cyclone bus scheme to in-principle approval. This is one of the most significant transport schemes we've approved around bus and active travel, supports the city's wider regeneration efforts and supports access to mobility across the city. So really pleased to recommend that one to the board. We also have an approval request for a 4JAR scheme. This is private business investment. 4JAR is an AMRC spin-out, seeking a relatively modest sum of money to support their development and their move to a Sheffield City Centre location. And then finally, we're seeking approval for the development of the South Yorkshire Transport Model Tool. This will be a tool that's available to all partners across the region and is necessary to access funding from the Department of Transport into the future. It'll be funded from transport capital schemes. We're also seeking 1 change request to advance £1 million of funding previously earmarked to the hybrid air vehicle scheme to the company that will allow for planning and site development work at Carcroft Common, and we believe will help unlock the wider project. So happy to recommend all these schemes to the board and take any questions. Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I really welcome all of these approvals, but particularly two that will further support the regeneration of Sheffield City Centre and the development of the city centre as a great place to live, to work and to enjoy yourself. It will create a better environment for pedestrians and better active travel routes in and across the city centre. Changes to the city centre will see a better public realm in and around our Heart of the City scheme, which people will have seen just come to completion over the course of this year. I also really welcome the fact that we're supporting Forjaw today. Forjaw are set to move into a place called Pen on 5, which is a key part of the innovation spine. This is a programme of work which is making sure that Sheffield City Centre can benefit from knowledge-intensive industries and be located in the city centre. As you said, Gareth, they are an AMRC spin-out company and have seen good growth over the last 4 years. This will enable them to grow further, and they are a really innovative company which I had the pleasure of visiting in their crowded offices earlier this year, and this will allow them to move to new offices. They help manufacturers in our region and around the world to become more productive, and they are exactly the kind of innovative firm that we know exists in this region, and it's right that we support them to grow. So fully support this and look forward to seeing them continue to do great things.
Brilliant, thank you. Any other comments? Yeah, Clint.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I really welcome the hybrid air vehicles going forward. This initiative will bring forward green aviation travel immensely, and also as a side spin-off, it will provide significantly well-paid skilled jobs in Doncaster, which is greatly needed across the region in actual fact. I also welcome all the other projects that's been put forward today, and I don't know if I missed it, Chair, but obviously because of hybrid air vehicles being in Doncaster, I'll declare some sort of interest. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to brag about a business in their part of South Yorkshire whilst we're here? No? Okay. I love this bit of the meeting, genuinely, because I know it doesn't always get the attention that it deserves, but when we have this bit of the meeting every couple of months, I'm just conscious that we're kind of reading out what are significant amounts of money and significant investments in South Yorkshire, but most importantly, they're kind of testaments to the work that I think we're all doing and your teams are doing all the time to deliver on that promise of a bigger and a better economy. And all of these things, Forjaw, a brilliant company, hybrid air vehicles, pioneering new types of sustainable aviation, the work going into skills and to transport are all about creating that bigger and better opportunity and creating opportunity for everyone in South Yorkshire. And we've already taken that big decision on buses, which is again about connecting up communities, making sure that people can get to where they need to be. But these bits of information, this part of the meeting, every time we do it, are also kind of pointing towards that type of South Yorkshire that we're trying to build. And I think it deserves much more attention because these are really important things and really valuable going forward. So if I could please ask that the board considers and approves the recommendations as laid out in the papers. Everybody agreed?
Agreed.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Okay, on to agenda item number 12, please, which is not going to be presented by Martin, but it's the Delegated Authority Report, which will be presented by Claire.
Thanks, Oliver. So it's the regular report that outlines the decisions taken under delegated authority since the last meeting. Happy to take any questions on the decisions in the paper.
Any questions? No? Yeah. Store them up. Okay, brilliant, thank you. In which case, I'd ask that the board note the decisions and delegations made. Are there any other matters of business anyone would like to raise? No? In which case, that's brilliant, thank you very much. In which case, we'll adjourn the MCA board meeting. Thanks everybody for your time, appreciate it.